thank the member and I call the member for Werriwa.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise to discuss my community in the southwest to ensure our voice is heard in this place. I was disappointed to hear the New South Wales Premier comment recently that building additional rail links from the new airport to southwest Sydney was not a priority. It makes sense to have a rail line to the south of the Western Sydney International Airport. This rail line will link Bradfield to Leppington, Macarthur and to Kingsford Smith Airport. And the federal government has already announced $1 billion to start this process by making land acquisitions for this corridor so that in the future this rail line can be built. I've regularly spoken in this place about the good working relationship between the federal and the New South Wales state government, such as finalising Elizabeth Drive West, the new driveway to Western Sydney Airport as part of the M12 motorway project, or the M5 westbound upgrade with 50-50 funding from both governments to cover the cost of a $380 million project. We've understood the benefits of cooperation to deliver the best results for everyone. But of course it is still my duty to point out when my area of the world gets taken for granted. As soon as the Albanese Labor government was elected, I went straight to work to secure as much funding as I could, because I've been witness to the shocking inactions by previous governments. So I made every representation I could. I'm certain my continual advocacy has been a nuisance, but I won't change and be silent when my community needs more. That's why I can't be silent when the funding that I've fought for, that my community has given me a mandate to follow through on, is being left unspent. In December last year, the Albanese Labor government had announced $61.6 million for 15 projects in the Greater Sydney area. That was through the Thriving Suburbs Grant Funding Program. This secured funding for the construction of Austral Local Park 22. Austral, a suburb which is fast growing in my electorate, has very few parks that the community can use. Liverpool City Council states that they anticipate on-site construction to begin in February 2026, more than 18 months away. When I asked Council why it was taking so long to start construction, they told me that time was needed to procure a qualified design consultant, and after that it needed a procurement process to appoint a suitably qualified contractor. On the surface, this sounds like reasonable measures, but remember, it was Council that asked for this grant and said that they were ready for this project. And if I had a degree of trust in this Council, I'd take them at their word. However, the truth about trust in governments is not that it's given freely. It's earned. Trust is built up over time. And if you say you're going to do and you deliver on it, people are inclined to afford you the benefit of the doubt. But the bond is fragile, and when you lose the confidence of the community, it's gone. You create a trust deficit, and you will have a lot of hard work before you can take you at your word again. I cannot think of a more prominent example of Council's failures that have obliterated this trust with the community than the case of the roundabout at the intersection of 15th Avenue and 28th Avenue. I'm sure some people in this room have probably heard about it. It's a debacle. And it failed because the basic requirement of being round. That's what most roundabouts are. It was diamond-shaped. Council decided not to follow the original design, and it was the residents who paid the price. The feature required motorists to take multiple point turns on an already highly congested road, and as you can imagine, there is footage all over the internet of the near misses and chaos. Roundabouts will often be referred to as traffic calming devices. Suffice to say, this was the opposite here. It was referred to in some news bulletins as the worst roundabout in Australia. Council attempted to quickly remove the diamond roundabout, but in their haste they created further problems. Temporary roadworks were washed away by heavy rain and leaving large pothole in the intersection, creating more unnecessary frustration for residents. When questioned how this debacle was approved, Council say they don't know. They don't know who approved it. They don't know who awarded the contract to build it. Why was it decided that the design should be changed? Nobody knows. How much did this cost ratepayers? They're not sure, although there have been media reports that the debacle cost at least $130,000. I would truly think the saddest thing for all of us who regularly use 15th Avenue is this council's failure isn't even that much of a shock. 15th Avenue had a recurring side of failure after failure by Liverpool Council. A failure to plan for the future, to listen to residents who were raising alarms, and a failure to act decisively to stop 15th Avenue becoming the mess it now is. It should be noted that 15th Avenue was Council's responsibility, but it's fallen to the federal and state governments to fix it. We've both contributed to make a $1 billion investment to transform 15th Avenue into critical transport link. The Albanese government recognises the importance of investing in South West Sydney. Projects like 15th Avenue, the West M7, the Western Sydney Airport will support growth, jobs in Western Sydney. The early works mark the beginning of the There are early works on 15th Avenue to mark the beginning of the upgrade. Over the coming months, consultation with the community will inform planning and design and will be put on exhibition. It's a shame it's taken the federal and state government stepping in to make it right. But if Council abdicates its responsibilities, the least it could do is complete projects that the federal government has already provided ample funding for. And there are still large infrastructure projects remaining in the planning phase, such as the Currajong Road intersection upgrade at Beach Road and Lynn Parade Prestons. There is 100% funded by the Albanese Labor government, topped up with funding in December 2024. But Council has not yet awarded a contract or undertaken the significant utility pre-works that need to be done. This means that even when construction is ready to proceed, it's still delayed. Council states they expect the construction to be finished in early 2027, and I intend to hold them to that. The federal government has also contributed $6 million to the Middleton Drive extension. That was in October 2022. Surprise, surprise, it's also still in the planning 3 years later. The current expectation is for construction to commence later this year and finish next year. Again, if Council had presented a history of completing projects on time, on budget and fit for purpose, I might be inclined to agree that's what they'll deliver. But we have to face reality. We have a council that is before a public inquiry. It's been stated that there has been $5 million spent on staff payouts in the last 3 years. Predictably, we have heard that there's an exhaustion of all cash reserves. As a former councillor and long-term resident, I am distressed by the state of so many things in our area. The lack of vision and support to staff to plan and ensure that things get done, and for the community to get what they are supposed to get. I will never abandon the fight to make sure our community gets its fair share. If others are not willing to help, then at least they should stop getting in the way. I look forward to working with the council to make sure that these deliveries are made very soon.